Today, many Latinx-led community organizations and nonprofits are honoring the life of late labor civil rights champion Cesar Chavez. The day is a national holiday and it has been recognized as a state holiday in California since 1995. Today's celebrations come on what would have been his 95th birthday. Now, joining us right now to talk more about the significance of the day is Senator Alex Padilla, the first Latinx person to ever serve in the U.S. Senate. Thank you so much for joining us and taking some time out of no doubt your very busy schedule. How important is this day to you, and how does it amplify Latinx voices?
Well, a happy Chavez Day. That's what we say as we greet each other on this very important day. And just as Cesar would have wanted, it's not a holiday, it's not a day off. It really should be a day of action and a day of education, because a lot of both the issues that Cesar advocated for in forming the United Farm Workers Union, but also in how he went about it, particularly through non-violent protest when necessary, are still values and principles that are important today and continue to apply to a number of issues, whether it's the fight for immigration reform, fight for equity, fight for our fundamental democracy.
And are there any efforts right now in Congress to move forward any movements that you think that are really important to share?
Look, I think that the struggle continues. That's what Cesar would say. The struggle continues on a number of fronts, whether it's defending our fundamental voting rights. I mentioned a second ago the battle for immigration reform, which is long overdue. You know, our nation continues to rely on the work, the backbreaking work of farm workers, many who are immigrants, including many who are undocumented, who deserve better. They're considered essential workers and have been throughout this pandemic. I think they've been essential long before the pandemic, but they deserve the dignity and the respect of having earned that pathway to citizenship. There's other specific issues, both legislatively and in the courts, to protect workers' right in general, but particularly agricultural workers, whether it's in the right to organize, better pay, better working conditions, and a better chance at living the American dream.
I think that the pandemic really drove home that issue in regards to the diligence and what an essential worker was. I mean, there were so many essential workers on in regards to their backs, and they carried us through the pandemic. And I think that sometimes that message was lost.
Very often lost. And when the federal government, when the Department of Homeland Security said agricultural workers are deemed essential for the nation's economy, for the nation's security, as most of the country was kind of going into staying safer at home because of COVID, farm workers didn't have the choice. You can't pick crops over Zoom. They showed up for work, and whether it was extreme heat, whether it was surrounded by wildfires, the threat of COVID, and so much more, they kept showing up so that the rest of us could continue to put food on our table. So when we celebrate that heroes work here, farm workers are heroes, and they deserve to be treated as such.
And I mean, it would be remiss to not mention about the fact that, you know, the pandemic started with President Trump was in office and all of the duress that was going on with the ICE raids and all of that. So it really was this duopoly that was going on. Continue to do the work, but yet, however, be threatened as far as your existence in this country, right?
Exactly. Farm workers deserve better. Our nation is better than that, and now it's time to follow that up with the dignity and the respect that farm workers deserve, including a pathway to citizenship for those who are immigrants, including better pay and working conditions so that they can achieve the American dream that they're working so hard to live for themselves and for their families.
I remember growing up in Fremont and hearing this drummed into me as a child about the importance of valuing everyone across the board. And my father being lucky to be able to go to college, but he was the first in our family to be able to do that. What else do you think that is important in regards to messaging, in regards to making sure that we circle back on this that it's just not a one-off this day? What else can we do in America to make sure that those farm workers, that everyone is really elevated and their message amplified in regards to being heroes?
Right. Well, as with other holidays, we celebrate that day, but the lesson should really be applied all year round. And I will end with this. You know, if Cesar was alive today, he'd continue to say two things. Number one, la lucha sigue. The struggle continues. Our work is not done. And number two, sí se puede. Even in the toughest of times when things may not seem hopeful, sí se puede. We just got to keep at it.
Well, the struggle is always real as a Latinx woman, so I completely understand, and I really appreciate your time and your attention to this.
All right. Thank you. Happy Chavez Day.
Happy Chavez Day.